Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Diane, and today is the start of a new diary entry. So I am starting a new reading vlog with a new theme. So I am thinking that this vlog is going to be themed killer carnivals. So it's been something that I have been interested in reading about in the recent last few weeks. And so I thought there are a couple of books that include carnivals that I would really like to read for the spooky season. And so I decided to go ahead and have that be my third theme for the month. So, killer carnivals. So the first book that I am going to be reading for this reading vlog is Wonderland by Jennifer Hillier. So this one is about a theme park or an amusement park, and I presume there's some kind of serial killer on the loose or something like that. I'm not too sure. I like to go into my books rather blindly. I have started this one. I am 3 chapters in, and so far each of the 3 chapters focuses on a different character. So the first chapter follows a worker at the theme park, and he also has like a YouTube channel or a TikTok or an Instagram or something like that, where he does like climbing videos, climbing things, not climbing mountains, but like buildings and things. And so he is just out of high school. He's coming out of a relationship, and he decides that before he stops working at Wonderland, that he is going to scale the large Ferris wheel. And so we kind of follow him doing that in the first chapter. In the second chapter, we meet the new deputy sheriff. I can't remember what her title is, but she's new to the area. You find out that she lost her husband recently. He passed away, and so she has 2 teenage kids, and she kind of moved to the area first to get them all settled and everything. Her 2 teenage kids are with her husband's mother for the time being, and eventually they will come and meet up with her. And she's got a daughter and a son, and her daughter is a teenager and has already secured a job at said amusement park, Wonderland. But she's like settling into her job, and that's pretty much what that chapter is about. Just kind of getting to know her position, and something has happened at the park. So the third chapter follows another worker that is at the park, and kind of the goings on about finding a body at the park, and the start of the investigation and things like that. The like person who's in charge of the park that's like getting there and finding out the situation, all of that. And so it doesn't like necessarily focus on those 3 people like that, but for the most part, that's kind of what we get. There's also a little bit of a mystery that's kind of going on in the background, and that's pretty much all I know. It is kind of interesting with the like mysterious aspect of the story, because I will tell you that my brain was already like kind of trying to think about what was going on with this other thing that's going on in the background. It's definitely got me interested in reading more of this story. So currently I'm reading an ebook copy. It's borrowed from my library, but my library also has an audiobook copy. So I'm kind of in a kind of weird kind of time of the month as far as reading goes for me, because right now is when I usually read my Monochrome Manga Club selections, because we're going to have our meeting in a few days. And so I really need to focus on that. So even though I've started this book, I don't know that I'm going to be able to like continue it if I only continue it physically. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I might go ahead and borrow an audiobook copy from the library also, and try to like listen to that so that I can continue along with this story, because I'm really interested in what's going on. and I'm looking forward to seeing how that story progresses and things like that. But I do have to focus on my Monochrome Manga Club selections, and those are obviously physical reads. And so, yeah, I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but it is a Saturday today, and I've already started reading my Monochrome Manga Club selections. I normally don't listen to audiobooks over the weekend anyway. Audiobooks are kind of my lunchtime thing to do. And so I have a couple of days to think on it, but I will tell you that I'm very interested in what's going on in this story, and I'm looking forward to reading more. So I think I have 2 or 3 books that I'd like to read for this vlog. It depends on the timing, though, if I'm going to be able to get to 2 or 3. But we'll see how this goes. I'm really excited for the theme, and I hope you are too. So I guess with that, I will check in with you after I've read a little bit more.
Hello, it's been another couple days, and I'm back at the office for another meeting. This day is going to have a couple of meetings, and so I've got to be at the office for most of the day. But I'm here a little bit early, so I wanted to give you a little bit of an update as to my reading. So I am about 60% into Wonderland. I don't think I gave you a very good summary before, but basically this woman moves her entire family to this town. She needs a little bit of a change in her life. Some things have happened recently. And she is now the new police deputy chief or something like that. And so we kind of follow her and her family making this move. And then in this town, there is this very popular amusement park called Wonderland. And her very first job or call is to investigate a body that was found at the park. And so as she's investigating, she's starting to unearth some history about the park and things that had happened, as well as several unexplained disappearances. And so I'm finding it interesting. There is a pretty large cast of characters. We get multiple POVs in this one, and something came up several chapters back that really kind of irritated me. There was a mention of the derogatory slang for a person of Japanese descent, and it was made in reference to not even a character that is relevant or even alive in this timeline of the story. It's one of the relatives of one of the characters, and they were just mentioning it in regards to that relative, and I don't like that kind of thing. This story is not historical. I can see why somebody would use that slang when in a historical setting, because it is something that happened in history and was used, but at the same time, it's not something that I think should be perpetuated. There was no good reason for that to be even in there. And the only other thing is that one of the characters might be racist. And there are no other people of Japanese descent in the timeline right now. And so I'm not sure even why that particular one was used. But as a person of Japanese descent, I got really irritated. And it's things like that that really bother me. And I can tell you that it's been several days of reading since I've come across that term. And I just keep going back to that scene, those few sentences. And so it's really bothering me. But other than that, the investigation is interesting. You know, there are quite a few disappearances that have been uncovered. And right now, our main character is going to more depth into why maybe the department didn't do their due diligence. And so, yeah, it's entertaining. I'm finding it to be a very easy read, but like I said, I keep going back to that scene where the derogatory term was used, and it's really bothering me. So, in any case, I'm enjoying everything else the main character's daughter is like a teenager. She's like 14. She really needs a kick in the rear. We just found out something about our main character, which kind of, I don't know, I guess it was a little bit surprising, but at the same time, I'm just like, okay, it wasn't like really relevant to me, like important at all, but yeah, it was interesting information. In any case, I'm looking forward to seeing more of the investigation and what's going on at this park. And so, yeah, that's all of the update I have for you right now. I better pack it up and get into the building so that I can start my workday, but I will chat with you later.
Hello. So I have finished Wonderland. I thought it was a really, really interesting read. I definitely had enjoyed it a lot more the closer and closer we got towards the end, because I feel like everything just kind of picked up speed. With this book, it kind of like gives you a little bit of background information on other characters and things like that as you read through. And I actually quite enjoyed that, because if you remember when I talked about Sanatorium and how I was DNFing, and one of the reasons that I DNF'd that book was because they were like piling on backstory and stuff like that. The difference between how that went and how this book went, completely different experiences for me, because I think with Sanatorium, I was expecting like information, like, right up front that there's something that had happened in this woman's past. There's a reason why she is not working her profession at the time. There are other things going on. You just don't know what they are. And I think that like knowing but not knowing bothers me when I read a book, because it bothers me often when I read other books as well, when you kind of know there's something but you just don't know what it is. With this book, I didn't even expect there to be like any other like information from like, say, a character's past or the history of the park or things like that to have come up. Because to me, it was more a story about what was happening in the present at the park with the dead body that's being found. And then obviously them uncovering other things that had happened in the past kind of gave it the leeway to like open up and give more information, not only into the park's past, the history of the park, other employees that work there, and of course our deputy chief and things like that. So with this book, I really enjoyed those extra layers being thrown in. I do feel like they added to the story. Some of the things that we were given, I don't really feel gave anything to the story, but I think there were pieces that definitely added to the outcome and the momentum of the story as we head towards the end of it. I thought that everything happened very logically, which is also something that I enjoy from books like this. And the setting was very interesting. And so I ended up really enjoying this one. My only like really hang up with this was what I had mentioned to you previously about the racism and the derogatory word that was being used for Japanese people that was mentioned earlier in the book. Now, after I have finished the book, I found out that the author is Filipino Canadian, which means she is also a person of color. And it kind of made me even more upset that she would use racist terms and, language in her story for another culture or race of people. And so, yeah, that still bothers me. It's probably the thing that I hate the most in this book. And it really was just a mention and then a sentence about somebody being, or her father, I should say it's the deputy chief father, being a racist, and then a mention of maybe people aren't being forthwith with the information because one of the investigators was a black man. And so I didn't feel like there was any reason to have that type of situation or topic being brought up in the story. The story would have been just fine without those mentions. And so, yeah, it was even like weirder for me that this author, who is a person of color, would do that. And like I said, there is no reason to perpetuate things like that. And again, it had no bearing on the story. It had no bearing on any of really the characters or the investigation that was going on. The story would have been perfectly fine without those 3 mentions. So other than that, I really enjoyed the story. Like I said, it was a very logical ending. It like built up towards the end. And I'm looking forward to reading the next installment that should be coming out next year. I just found that out today. And so, yeah, I didn't realize that this was a first in a series. I thought it was a standalone. But yeah, it looks like we're going to have something else happen at the same park. But in reading the synopsis for that book, I'm kind of confused as to where this timeline is. And so I'll be interested to check that one out when it does come out sometime in 2026. But yeah, I ended up giving that one 4 stars. And it also had a little note at the back that said that our black detective or investigator that was brought into this story was actually someone from another series of the authors. And so there was this crossover character that she didn't really intend to make a crossover character, but just happened to make his way into the story as she was writing it. So I thought that was interesting. And I'll probably check out the series that that character is in, because I think it's a duology. And so, yeah, I'll definitely be checking out more by this author. And like I said, I gave it 4 stars. So that's my first book down for the kind of killer carnivals theme. I've got my next book all lined up. Hopefully it'll work out for me, but I haven't actually started it yet, so I don't want to give it away just yet. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know that I finished the book. I do have to go to the office again this week for more meetings, and I'll probably be there for a good portion of the day. And so we'll see what happens. Things are kind of getting really busy with my profession as it is heading towards the end of the year. But at least the temperatures have gone down a little bit. I wasn't appreciating those 90-degree temperatures that we were having last week. But yeah, I just got off work a little while ago, and so I wanted to come on and give you my thoughts. And so yeah, I'm going to move on to my next book for this vlog, and hopefully it all works out for me. And I will be back to check in with you and let you know what that book is and how I'm feeling about it in the next clip. So I will talk to you later. Hello! So I have started my next book for this vlog, and that book is Fantasticland by Mike Bokoven. So perfect for the kind of killer carnivals theme. This one takes place at a carnival, and it's kind of a story that's told in interviews about something that had happened at Fantasticland, which is the amusement park where this event had taken place. A hurricane or storm kind of hits the area where the amusement park is, and things happen with the people who were at the park while they were trying to like survive during a span of several days, I think. I'm only about 5 chapters in at this point. I don't really have a great picture of what's going on, but my understanding from some of the descriptions of things is that the people who were left at the park had divided into factions and basically played like a battle royale or a Hunger Games type deal, trying to survive, which I don't really understand because it doesn't seem like things were that dire. But like I said, I'm only 5 chapters in, and I'm really curious to know like what caused the extreme decision kind of to be made where they separated into tribes and did these things to each other. Like, there's definitely been mention that people were dead, kids were dead. There was a very description of some bodies that you could see when they had gone into the park to finally rescue these people and things like that. That being said, this kind of storytelling style is not really working for me. I don't read a lot of books that have like multimedia or like interviews and things. And so far, and from what I can see in the like chapter list, the story is told in all interviews. And I think this story would have worked better for me if it was told maybe from an omniscient point of view in the park, like seeing all of this unfold, as opposed to hearing from, like, say, a Red Cross worker, who's one of the chapters that I've read, and how they were helping out in, like, not only a general sense where they were also helping other people outside of the park and things like that, but, like, why help was delayed to the park and what had happened upon once they finally were able to get to them and things like that. Or maybe a chapter about a family who was vacationing there and the decisions that they made on the day that the storm hit and things like that, who ended up not actually being stuck at the park. And so I think part of that is my like pause on this story. Like, it's not really grabbing me because we're not hearing from people who are actually in the park, who had experienced the horrific things that were going on. I've heard good things about this book, but for me right now, 5 chapters in, I'm not like hooked. So I don't know, like, if it's just because I'm more interested in reading other things right now. If this would have worked better for me if I was actually able to get to it in October. But I think what I need to do is put a pause on this book for right now and kind of work on the other projects that I have going and pick this one back up in January. So you're probably going to see my next update is going to be a few months from now. It is now November 7th. And so, yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to put the brakes on this one for now. I'm not going to DNF the book, but I am going to put a pause on it just so that I can get through my projects. Because like I had said before, I'm working on my light novel November kind of reading challenge, my personal challenge. And then after that, I'm doing my manga advent calendar project. And I'm going to want to read some Christmassy books as well, more holiday themed type books. And this book is not one of those. It's definitely not something that I'm jiving with right now either, because I feel like my focus is elsewhere. So we'll come back in January. I'm going to pick the book back up in January and see how I feel about the story then, after I finish all of my projects and all of the holiday reading and things like that. So I guess the next time you'll see me, it'll be 2026. So I will chat with you later. Hello. So it's been a few months since I've checked in with you on this vlog. Things kind of, went off the rails a little bit with my reading plans for the end of the year. I had my light novel November, and then I had my manga advent calendar project. So now it is the beginning of January. It's actually January 3rd right now, the day that I'm filming this clip for you. And I am going to try to finish out this diary entry for you. So I think first things first, the last time I checked in with you, I told you I was reading Fantasticland by Mike Bokoven. And since I've spoken to you about this one, I've decided to go ahead and DNF it. I have found that over the last couple months where I hadn't been reading this one, I just wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't curious about anything that was going on with what I had read. And I think when I had checked in with you last, I had told you that I would have much preferred if we, up until the point where I had read, had more story from the people who were actually inside Fantasticland, as opposed to the kind of interviews and stuff from people who were like not like in the thick of it. Like, I enjoy the interview aspect, and I think it would have worked better for me if we were actually like interviewing people who had experienced the things that were going on in Fantasticland. Like, maybe from one character's perspective, or maybe even if this one wasn't done in like interviews, I think it would have been a really good book if we had followed multiple people in the different like tribes going through what had happened in the park. So yeah, unfortunately, I decided to not continue with this one. And like I said, I haven't thought about it over the last couple of months, and that was kind of my indicator as to you probably don't need to finish this book. And so I decided not to. And so because I wanted to finish at least one more book for this reading vlog, I decided to go ahead and pick up another kind of carnival-y type book. So I decided to pick up Funhouse by Diane Ho. This one is actually a point horror book. It's number 9 in the point horror series. Point horror books are something that I really enjoyed when I was growing up, and I still have several that I have not read, but my library's Hoopla offering has several of them, and so this is one of them, and I thought it fit perfectly with the kind of theme of this vlog. We're basically at the beginning of this book. I'm only 3 chapters in, but at the beginning of this book, we follow a girl who's at a carnival. She's in high school, you know, just having a good time, when all of a sudden she sees the large roller coaster, the car of the roller coaster, basically fly off the roller coaster and fall to the ground. I think one of the kids from their school was on there, had died. One of them was seriously injured, and another one was seriously disfigured. But was this just a freak accident, or was it intentionally done? And so this one should be a pretty quick read. Like I said, I'm 3 chapters in. I'm barely in it all. And chapter 2 was basically 3/4 of a page. So I think this one is going to go by pretty quick. It's got those like Hallmark nostalgic feelings for me because it is point horror. I've read some of Diane Ho's work before, especially with the Nightmare Hall series that she had written. And I still have some of those on my shelves that I've not read yet either. And so I think this is going to be a good one and a pretty quick read. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing with this one. And I think that's pretty much all I have to say. So I'll come back and let you know what I thought when I'm done with this book. But until then, I hope you're having a good one, and I will chat with you later. So I finished Funhouse by Diane Ho. This one was good. I enjoyed it. It's one of those point horror books that I didn't get around to reading when I was growing up. I was very much a fan of the point horror, like authors that participated in writing point horror books. I wouldn't say that I was necessarily aware of point horror as a series when I was growing up, but I was very much into a lot of the authors that wrote books for point horror. And so I'm kind of like rediscovering like the series in my adult years, and I'm enjoying them. They definitely have like a nostalgic feel, and I felt that with this one. Also with the kind of fun house type of element that we're dealing with in this story. It kind of reminds me of going to like carnivals when I was a kid. My dad used to take us when we were young, and I have two siblings, and the three of us would kind of go into this one thing, which I think was called like the Genie's House or something like that. I can't quite remember because it's been a really long time since I've been to a carnival. But it was something that had like weird kind of tricky elements to it. Like I remember there was like staircase where the things would move up and down like this and you would have to like climb it. And then there was like a thing that would go around and around like this and you would have to like walk through it. There were a bunch of other like types of things, and my siblings and I would like race to see who could get through it the fastest. And it was one of those things that we would do a couple of times when we would go to the carnival. And so the funhouse element in this book kind of reminded me of like doing that with my siblings, but it also had like a little bit of a, a creepier edge because things in like the storyline had happened in the funhouse. And so, yeah, I enjoyed like the nostalgic feel of this one. It definitely felt like all of those stories that I would read when I was growing up from these authors that would write point horror. As a series, I don't know that I would consider point horror a series that I would be like continuing or striving to complete. I would say that the books on their own, it's not like Fear Street. It's not like Fear Street from R.L. Stine where you've got a bunch of these things that are happening to people who lived on the same street. There's like that connector, which makes it a series. This point horror, I don't feel like there's connectors. At least I'm not picking up on any. It might be just because I, just pick up random ones here and there. And so I don't know if there's any continuity, but it doesn't seem like a series where I have to read it in order. And I'm a big stickler for somebody reading series in order. But they do feel a lot like just standalone novels where I can just pick and choose wherever I please. My library does have several of these and their Hoopla offering. And so I'm definitely going to be checking out more. I did enjoy this one. I didn't like pick up who the culprit was until it was revealed. It's definitely one of those things where in this book you have POVs from our main like female character. And then you've got chapters from the culprit's point of view as well. So you definitely know like what's going on in the culprit's head, their like thought process, what's pushing them to do the things that they're doing and why they're targeting certain people. And so it definitely kind of lost the mysterious aspect for a bit for me because, you already know like things. It's not like you're like reading a mystery where you've got somebody trying to put all the pieces together and you're trying to do that as well until everything is revealed at the end. You already kind of know like what the motives are and things like that. And so it was not as good, I think, because of that as it could have been if everything was kept more in the dark for me. But I still really enjoyed this one, and I ended up giving this one, I think, 3 stars. And so, yeah, I am looking forward to checking more of those point horror books out from Hoopla. Like I said, there are several of them, and I don't think that I've read very many of them. I do have a couple of them on my shelf. I don't remember if I've read any of the ones that I have on my shelf or not, if I'm honest. And that happens to me a lot with some of the nostalgic reads. I may have picked up some of the books from like library book sales or whatever, but it's not until I start reading it that I realize whether or not I have actually read them or not. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to exploring more of those. And that is all of the reading that I'm going to be doing for this vlog. And so I, per my previous diary entry, I'm going to do some Advent openings with you today. So if you hadn't watched my previous diary entry, we're going to be opening up my Advents from 2025 throughout the year of 2026 because I just wasn't feeling it in December of 2025. And so we're just going to make this a year-long Advent opening, or however long it goes, because I'm only opening Advents every video that I put out as far as a reading or a diary entry goes. And so we're going to be doing my yarn Advent calendar first. Just as a reminder, my yarn Advent calendar had this really fun Peanuts project bag in it. And the yarn Advent calendar is a Charlie Brown Christmas themed, and it's from Stitchin' with Yarn. So this actually tells me what the colorway name is. So I'm just going to put this down right here. And we have number 2, because this is the second video or diary entry that I'm putting up for 2026. And the colorway name for this is Snowflakes Floated Down. So let's see what we've got here. Oh, there is a little tag here that says what it is. Snowflakes Floated Down, Sock Mini, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 87 yards or 20 grams. And so the color looks like this. Oh, really, really nice. So it's definitely like snow and night sky kind of. Very beautiful. And I think that actually goes really well with the full skein that I had. And I can actually show you what that full skein is because I've got it in this bag. And so full skein from the first was this. And so, yeah, that's really pretty. Again, I'm not sure what I'm going to be using this Advent calendar for. I have a couple of Advents that I've opened that I haven't used yet. And I've got a couple of Advents that I have started projects for but haven't completed. And I think I have one project that I've used an Advent calendar for and have completed. And that would be my Ghosts of the Haunted Mansion sweater that I did using Stephen West's Rainbow Ring. The pattern from Stephen West is called Rainbow Ring. And so that's pretty much the only Advent project I think I've completed with the Advent calendars that I've used. That particular project was using Fangirl Fibers, Resident of the Haunted Mansion, Halloween-ish kind of Advent calendar. That one was a 31-day Advent calendar. And it was meant for Halloween, but I ended up opening it up in December of 2024, I believe. And so, yeah, I'm still thinking about what I want to do with my Advents. It's definitely something that's kind of been forefront in my mind. And so, yes. So that's one Advent calendar down. And then the second Advent calendar I have is this Nido Advent that my mom gave me. So we'll see what we've got for day 2. Again, you're probably seeing it before I do. Here. Day 2 is right here. Oh, this one is a stress ball. And it is a cute snowflake kind of confetti inside a jelly cube. Very, very nice. And this is such a good size too. It like fits right in my palm. It's actually the same size that I have a teardrop one on my computer desk for work. Really, really happy with that. I have been putting them back inside, but I think I'm going to keep this one out. And so, yes. And it does say Nido right there. Really, really happy with that. So that is my day 2 Advent. And again, I will be opening these up every diary entry. So really, really happy to be be opening those. I'm very excited every time I get to open one of those now, and it feels so much better than I think it would have been if I was just opening them up during December, because I just really wasn't feeling it. And so, yeah, this vlog definitely took a little bit more time than usual, but I'm glad that I was able to finally get this one done. And so, yeah, I think I've got one more catch up entry from last year to do before we can get into like completely new like January reads and things like that. But I'm enjoying doing these now. I think, you know, I hit a little bit of a rut last year with my reading and things like that, and I think like doing these diary entries a little bit differently has really helped as far as me like coming on here to talk about the books that I've read so far, and then also incorporating some of my other hobbies as well. So let me know down in the comments below if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. Did you read any point horror books when you were growing up, or are you just getting introduced to them now? Have you read any point horror books? If you have, let me know, and let me know which ones you've read or which ones are your favorite. Or if you have any other suggestions for like killer carnival type books, I'd really be interested to know. And if nothing else, and you'd just like to let me know that you were here, if you could leave me a clown emoji down in the comments below, it would be greatly appreciated and would really help me out. And that would do it for me today. So I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy. And until next time, take care and smile always. Bye.